So, Haasa Vidya. This is a continuation from the earlier video on Rasa Vidya, the link given in the description. Now, following the enlightening teaching, Govinda went on to describe to Rad the Attahasa Vidya or Hasa Vidya, which is basically the evolution of Rasa Vidya. Hasa means laughter or smile. So, Hasa means laughter or smile, and Atta means Ashta Ashta or 8 times 8 or 64. Atta also derives from etta in Tamil, meaning infinite or countless. Here's the description of Attahasa in Govinda's own words. Hey Radu, Radukutti, Rasavidya can be practiced without remembering even all of the information given here, and that is called Attahasa Vidya, which in fact is the source of Rasavidya itself. To revisit the beginning of it all, you, the Atma, had an impulse to increase your bliss, and that's where basically everything started. But here's the point. That impulse occurred at a time when even when God was within you, not yet created. This is much like you in deep sleep, where again the fake world is fully destroyed and God is fully merged into you. Here too there is an impulse, which is what wakes you up for the next day, and it came from either you or God, me, within you. But you couldn't feel the impulse when it came, correct? You only knew you woke up after you woke up. Just like that, the initial impulse of creating bliss couldn't even be felt, even if it existed very well. This is because to feel you need to perceive, and to perceive you need a second entity, a witness. So you created me, God, out of you, so that you could witness that bliss and that increased bliss through me. I am you and was within you when you conceptualized your first desire. Hence, I was always well aware of this desire even before I came out of you. Thus, there was no communication required between us. You needn't tell me what your desire was. So, what's the most primary reason for my existence? It is bliss. You were blissful, I was blissful, and when I came out of you, you saw me, I saw you. The one thing connecting us both was the smile, Hasa, on both our faces. We have already told how love, Rasa, is nothing but sameness between God and Atma. The same applies to Hasa too, except for a small difference. Love, Rasa, always requires two people, and so never existed until I came out of you. But Hasa is possible even for a person alone, and existed as your very nature even before I came. Thus, sameness in its purest form is Hasa, which created the Rasa. How does Hasa create Rasa? Let's see. Attahasa. We know the elements of creation. There's you, the Jiva, and me, the Ishvara. Then there's the seven commandments of Rasavidya as the relationship between us. Then there's the Jagat or dream world with its blueprint at the causal level. How were all these created? What's the first creation of me as God? I only had two things to work with. One was the Hasa, the other was your desire to increase Hasa. So naturally, my first creation was related to this. What I created was a continuum of different intensities of Hasa. Think of it as a straight line graphically, with one end being the least intense Hasa and the other being the most. Let's call it the Hasa continuum or HC. Each point in HC is a different level of Hasa. How many such points are there? Literally infinite. There is no counting them. So we call it Ettahasam or Attahasam. For each Hasa in the HC, your reaction was also varying. Thus, Attahasa was my very first creation. From here, what we know next is that the seven commandments of Rasavidya were created. This essentially includes the four relations and 60 Kalachakra elements, totaling 64. Since these were created from Attahasa, each of the 64 has its own characteristic smile which can invoke it. For this reason, we call Attahasa the Ashtashtahasa or 64 smiles. Note here that the HC was in a time when there was no thought about creation or the world or anything like that. Pure Nirakara. Even the 64 modes of Rasavidya only involve God and Atma, though in both Sakara and Nirakara modes. Even here the world isn't created yet. It was only after this step, as well that God conceives the world becoming a mother while Atma becomes the child, namely Tiraskarani and Vainayaki, the starting seeds of the causal model from which the entire world is created. How does a simple straight line of varying smiles give rise to the Rasa Vidya model, given it has so many features, colors, directions, relations, etc.? This is a black box, but it can be understood through the concept of chaos theory. Chaos is basically defined as sensitive dependence on initial conditions. What is that? Basically, if you are creating a thing B from A in such a way that even minute small differences in A give rise to drastic changes in B, then it's called chaos. For example, if A being 4.001 created B as 56, but A as 4.002 created B as 87, then that's chaos. So the nature of chaos is that you can't predict unless you can exactly know the initial condition till the most minute accurate level of detail. If you miss even by a little amount, your predictions will go completely wrong. An example of chaos frequently cited is the weather. A small butterfly flapping its wings in some place may create enough air disturbances to completely change the weather in some distant place, even causing a cyclone. What's the advantage of chaos? Richness. Because look at that example above, 4.001 and 4.002 in the source A, and 56 and 87 in the created B, which has more variety of values and bigger range. Of course, B, because chaos always adds variety and richness. That was indeed the aim, isn't it? From one continuous thing called smile, I had to create the entire variety of Rasa Vidya of all 64. So I had to go with chaos. The 64 elements of Rasa Vidya are simply 64 kinds of love. Another aspect is asymmetry. The Rasa Vidya, which is chaos, is asymmetric. North is different from east, for example, and if you rotate the model, then the new positions are not the same as the old. This means the model has no symmetry or is called asymmetric. But the HC is symmetric. It has only one dimension and there is no way it can change irrespective of what you rotate. Thus, order is symmetric, chaos is asymmetric. Asymmetry also means more information. Consider this: a ball, perfectly round and symmetrical, and an egg, not perfectly round and hence asymmetrical. How do you describe these two shapes to a blind person? You would say the ball is round all over and that will suffice. But in the case of the egg, you'll have to say that it's almost like a ball, but one end is elongated and narrow, etc., which takes more information to convey asymmetry and hence chaos. Thus, there is a black box which is basically me, God. Going inside it is the Hasa continuum, coming outside it, the model of 64. What is inside the black box? Nobody knows and it doesn't matter. Also, nobody except God, not even Atma, knows which smile maps to which element in the 64 love. Being chaotic, it can't be predicted because nobody knows the initial conditions that perfectly but God Himself. In fact, it is this ignorance of the Atma that causes Maya and kickstarts further creation. And this ignorance is not because of the Atma but of the nature of creation or God's mind itself as chaos. That's why jnana or wisdom enlightenment is never the aim of Atma but it is the aim of God. And his ultimate wisdom to you is simply to tell which smile maps to whom in the 64. That is the highest enlightenment he can give to correct the chaos. And by engaging in the smile with him, you meet your objective of increased bliss as well. This in entirety is Haasa Vidya. Now, using Attahasam is very easy. We note here that the continuum was created at a time even when Kalachakra as time itself wasn't created. Thus, we don't need to stick to specific time slots unlike Rasavidya. Attahasam can be used in invoking either of the four relations in the same context of desires, distress, doubt, depression, or it can also be used to invoke any of the 60 Kalachakra elements, understanding their internal and external results as already listed earlier. All that's required for you, the Atma, and me, God, as a Rishtadevata in the form of a Vigraham or a photo where facial features are clear and smiling. The process of applying Attahasam is very simple. First, pray to Ganesha and set your sankalpam of which of the 64 you want to invoke and with what purpose. Second, just look at me. See my smile. My smile will be the smile of whichever form you wanted to invoke. And since you can neither know nor predict it, just follow my lead, smile back. Just maintain this exchange of bliss with me, not bothering about anything else. keep looking at me, and both of us keep smiling at each other. That's it, done. Just like Rasa Vidya, you will receive confirmation of successfully having performed the operations through colors, etc. In the image already given, the Rasa Vidya are the commandments to Meru and Aru, while Hasa Vidya is the Vigraha given representing Vairu. Hasa Vidya can be condensed into just three commandments, taking one each from the Meru and Aru of Rasa Vidya and the exclusivity of bliss for Hasa Vidya, representing Vairu. Here we don't even need to understand or resolve which of the 64 we use because the Hasa is a continuum. So let us look at the three main commandments of Hasa Vidya. The one only point you need to actually remember to condense all of Hasa Vidya are those three commandments. First, the commandment of Aru. Atma sees, God does. Be in an attitude of surrender always. Second, the commandment of Vairu. Whenever anything disturbs the mind, be it negativity or desire, just look at the Vigraha and see its smile. Smile back and maintain an exchange of smile. The mind will ease soon. Third, the commandment of Meru. Use colors as instructions on the next steps in the following meanings. Red means spending time in love. Green, work according to instincts. Blue, await knowledge. White, relax and be entertained. Attahasam, as can be seen, is extremely simple to use compared to even Rasavidya, but it's extremely powerful as you are directly targeting the very seed or the very first creation ever. And also, the Ashtakarma war operations mentioned in Rasavidya, the same can be used here too by just invoking the corresponding forms through their smiles. In fact, there are two notable examples of Attahasam war operations in history. The first is Shiva burning down the Tripurasura demons by simply smiling, Siritte Muppuram Iritta. The second is Devi Lalita creating Durga and other deities using Attahasam to kill the demons such as Raktabija, Madhukaitaba, etc. So this is a summary of Hasa Vidya, Attahasam, and so on.